Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino.
It is hanging, brother. It is going good. It is
good.
The numbers are reflecting. I want to make a little bit of announcement real quick.
Okay.
I brought up another podcast. I have another podcast under the Amps and Axes umbrella. I don't even know what the hell we're going to call this whole thing. We'll have to come up with a name, but it's called Let's Press Pause, and it's me and Greg Mara.
Nice.
And we've already done our first one, and oh boy.
Do we need to press pause?
Oh, there was some controversy around that one, man, and we had to go back and our second interview, which will be out, it will already be done by the time you hear this. We kind of made a little bit of a correction there because there was a couple people that were like, "What's going on?" But it's just a small show. It's real tight. It's real quick, and basically, it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be a product, right? That we're going to kind of spotlight a little bit and do, 20 minutes on whatever it is. Or it's going to be, a story that either Greg or myself that we've heard or we know and or done or whatever. And sometimes it'll be music and sometimes it could be airplanes. I don't know.
There you go.
We just kind of meander through this thing, but it kind of always ends up landing on its feet. So that is something that you can check out. And as things revolve, we're going to have, it'll be its own little guy, but it's going to be part of this whole thing. As we've already said years ago that we wanted to have more of this. So this was our attempt, and it's kind of funny. Sometimes it's kind of like, whoa. But,
Nick, I want a drone show.
There you go. Look, I will tell you this. Our second episode was about Miss Courtney Cox from the Iron Maidens vomiting pretty much the entire show.
Well,
she got food poisoning, played an entire gig while puking. I said, well, she wins. I've never heard this. Sure, I've never, ever heard anybody do a show with food poisoning and still.
That's a trooper, man. That's a trooper.
No pun intended, brother.
Yeah. Man.
So listen, when you got to go to ampsandaxes.com, I have shortened up the list of our advertisers because I figured these guys weren't digging it. But listen, Audible, you got to go to Audible, man. And you get in there, they got more books on the coolest rock stars on the planet. I was like, hey, this is a no-brainer. Done. And we got our Amazon. So you guys, if you go there, that puts a little coal in the train, right? Train goes down the tracks. I can bring you another show.
Make more steam.
Exactly.
All
and just remember, and we always want to thank you because without you guys, we cannot do this thing.
That's right. We cannot do it without you, your friends, your neighbors, anybody in your radius of life that you want to tell about this. We would really appreciate it because, we need the numbers to go up all the time. So we appreciate your help there.
Yeah, yeah. And when you do tell your friends and your relatives and all those other people that Jeff mentioned, we'd like to know that, maybe we've told you something that you have never heard. So when you say it, hey, command, I heard it here first.
Mm-hmm. And, today's probably a first. Today's probably another first.
Today's going to melt your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very interesting. Yeah. And you may not have heard of this band yet, but they seem to be garnering a good deal of traction. So we're going to take a pause, break, a pause for the cause, and come back with the lead singer and guitarist for the band Wayland, Mr. Mitch Arnold.
Hey, this is Tim Pierce. I'm a studio musician, and you're listening to Amps and Axes.
All right, we are back as promised with our guest of the week because we try to keep our promises around here. So please welcome to the show singer, I'm assuming songwriter and guitarist for the band Wayland, Mr. Mitch Arnold. Mitch, how are you?
Hey, I'm really well. Thanks for having me, Mick, Jeff. I appreciate it.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
We were mixing cocktails just then. That was good. I like that.
Yeah, well, actually, I wish it was a cocktail. Actually, I planned everything so well today. I've just got to say that I'm winning all across the board. And nice. After my workout, I'm at a gym here in Omaha, Nebraska. After my workout, I sped through a quick shower and grabbed my shaker, which had my protein in it, and I ran up to this lounge, and you guys were calling as I was shaking my protein, so I couldn't have asked for a more perfectly timed afternoon.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that is the ultimate of planning, man. That's
called winning. That's called winning, right there.
Right. Not Charlie Sheen winning.
No. Not Charlie Sheen winning. No, sir. No.
Not quite sure who other than he would consider that winning, but okay.
Yeah. We'll let him think he's winning. That's totally fine.
Jeff, as I always do, I have a little bit of a story.
Okay.
Their manager contacted me. And I was like, well, this is one of those things that starts to happen, after you've been on for 5 years. And I was like, well, let me check them out. And I go out and I see, a couple of their videos, and I'm like, these guys freaking rock, man. And I was like, you know what? It's old school. It's like, it's a lot like in the Blackberry Smoke kind of realm, but they rock it a little bit more. And I was like, it's got this Southern rock vibe that, that has kind of been lost, that we really enjoy ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah. And so, here we are. And thank God, because, we've had our EDM guys on, and now it's time to, get back some root stuff, man.
Absolutely. And we're gonna find out where that root stuff came from, because like we do with all our guests, Mitch, we're going to jump in the Wayback Machine and find out where Mr. Mitch Arnold was born and raised and what got you into this wonderful world of music.
That's cool. I love time machines. I love time machines, by the way.
Nice.
I was born in Decatur, Illinois, and that's where my parents met. They met at Millikan University. My mom was studying to be a PE teacher. My dad was going to be a stockbroker, but he was also a collegiate athlete there at Millikan. And he wanted to be a pro baseball player and didn't quite make it to the pros, had some semi-pro success, and then got a job in Indianapolis as a stockbroker. And so when I was 2, we moved to Indy. I spent my very young adolescent years right outside of Indianapolis, and I was always really interested in music. And I was always we had a piano in the house. And I don't remember ever listening to music except for on Sunday mornings. That's whenever we would go to church, we would always listen to music going to church. And my dad would play Journey and Mark Cohen and the Everly Brothers and some bluegrass jams, and he would do Zeppelin and the Stones. And when the when the Bodyguard soundtrack came out, that was like one of the first CDs we ever had. And it just never came out of the CD player whenever we were going to church, and it was just Whitney Houston all the way. And
wow.
And I don't know, and if you think about it, like I don't know if that's cool or not, but at the time I just could not get enough of that. And the whole family was because we're all, I'm the eldest of 3 boys, so you're playing stuff on the way to church to make everyone happy. And this is before iPhones and iPads and all that kind of stuff to keep people entertained. And so it was up to the parents and up to the music. And that's just what kind of got us through, is like what I remember the most out of those mornings going to church was Mark Cohen and his big hit was "Walking in Memphis." For anyone that doesn't know that, and then and Journey, and that damn Bodyguard soundtrack, and
well,
and then
and not to cut you off there, but you know, that was Whitney Houston on fire. A lot of people, a lot of people don't remember because her career when she first started, it was like, where did this woman come from? And
she came from Clive Davis.
Yes, and
you're right about that.
And her later years, it was some horrible stuff. But when she was on top of her game, she was untouchable, man. And
she really was. She really was. And I'm very excited for the documentary that's coming out called Whitney.
Oh, really?
Just because, and it goes from the start to the finish, and she was one of those tragic incidents. Here's the deal. People with massive amounts of talent and people that are kind of savants in their own ideal, it will either go one of two ways. It will go shoot to the stars forevermore, and they will be this golden god until they die, which she kind of was anyway. But or they fall off. They have that giant fall from grace.
Oh, they end up being their worst own enemy. Yeah, I mean, it's like boxers.
And what this is. This is actually not a problem. It's actually what happens with these massively talented people is that they have these huge desires. They have these giant desires, these giant vessels to fill with energy. They have these giant bins as a physical manifestation that need to fill that with whatever it is. And if it's not music, it's something else. And obviously, I feel like Whitney's not the first. I mean, she's not the first one to do that. She's not the first celebrity and the first talent to go down the tubes like that. And I don't really feel like there is a middle ground. I've only seen middle ground a couple of times in my life, in my short existence here on Earth, and it's really interesting. So, but back on track to my little musical journey. My dad ended up getting a job in Bloomington, Indiana, right at the end of my 5th grade year. So I spent my grade school years in Indianapolis. We moved to a little town outside of Bloomington called Ellisville, Indiana. And my parents uprooted the family. We moved an hour south, basically, and it was considered southern Indiana. And so I spent junior high and high school there. And this is really interesting coming into this community of people because, believe it or not, there in Ellisville, Indiana, at Edgewood, there was a huge show choir program. And it was like show choir, yes, sir. And it was like nationally known for being one of the best show choirs in the country. And I didn't know this, obviously, coming in at the time. And my dad was always really encouraging of me doing music, but he was grooming me to be an athlete. And not that he didn't love me doing music, he did. He actually did. In my early show choir days, he was actually a show choir dad. And he was super supportive. He was just really supportive. But, I mean, he was still grooming me to be an athlete. And so at the time, I think I was playing baseball, basketball, and football, and focusing a lot more on baseball and second on football. But show choir is really where my passion was, and that sounds so stupid and so dorky. But I got into it.
We don't judge. We don't judge.
No, hey, thank you very much.
Well, I got a question though. What is that? I mean, I've never heard of that term.
Well,
so
show choir,
is it sort of like a competition thing?
Have you ever seen the show Glee?
I've heard of it.
I mean,
my kids.
I mean, I've never watched it. I don't watch a lot of television, but that's about. So basically, you got about 20 or 30 kids on stage, and they have these choreographed dances that are usually, the shows are like 15 to 20 minutes long, and they do like a variety show where they're all doing. Some kids take a solo, and there's a live band that play, and they're all.
It's like High School Musical or Perfect Pitch, one of those movies.
Boom! There you go.
There you go. Done.
Perfect.
See, now I know.
Perfect. Yeah, yeah. So it was a lot like that. And actually, this big show choir movement that I was a part of when I was a kid is actually what triggered all of that on television. I wasn't a direct inspiration for that, but I was a part of this thing that was happening in Middle America. So anyway, what happened was I wanted to be in band and I wanted to be a drummer. So in 6th grade, I was playing drums, and at the end of my 6th grade year, the choir director kind of recruited me, and she sold me because all of the pretty girls in school were on show choir. They were also cheerleaders, but that's where all the cool chicks were. Like, and there were cool chicks and hot chicks in show choir that weren't cheerleaders. So it was like a big selling point at that age. I'll never forget it. I danced to Aladdin, the song from Aladdin in 6th grade. That was my first time ever dancing with a girl on stage, and it was so, I don't know how to say it other than magical to like, you were allowed, you're touching and you're moving together, and I can't say it was moving really well together, but at the time you don't give a shit, you're just like, you think that you're the most rock and roll MFer in the world dancing to this Aladdin song. and so that actually got me really, really into it. So 7th and 8th grade, I was in this thing called Mini Warehouse, and I was still doing sports and everything like that. And 8th grade year, my dad got transferred to Indianapolis, but didn't want to uproot the family again. So he was making this commute every day, doing that. And unfortunately, on one of those rides home, he for whatever reason fell asleep at the wheel and hit a semi head on in his car, and he was killed instantly with the steering wheel hit him in the chest. And
Jesus.
And it instantly put my mother in the single parent category, raising 3 boys on her own. And she had actually, because of my dad's job, this is so crazy. I've never really told this story, but I feel like it all ties in. Because of my dad's job and what he was doing, my mom decided to retire from teaching. And she had been doing it for long enough she could cash in retirement, and then she started working cardiac rehab at the hospital, which is what her passion was. But cardiac rehab didn't pay very much, and now she was, even though my dad had good life insurance, it was a thing where, like, she didn't have a way to make ends meet for 3 boys, basically. Right. And the school wouldn't hire her because she had too many years of experience. And by Indiana state law, they had to pay her a certain amount. So my mom said that she would take a smaller amount, and they could increase that amount as her years went on. School board said no. Everybody that was a big fan of my dad and a big fan of the family, by then we had lived there for a few years. All 3 boys were in sports. I was in music. We were a prominent family in the community and everything like that. Everybody was a huge fan of Stu Arnold. And so everybody got together and signed this huge petition, and my mom got the job as a PE teacher there at the junior high. And wow. That kind of the reason why I'm telling you that part of it is just because in high school I did play sports and I was very competitive, but secretly in the back of my mind I did not care about winning or losing. It was never stressful to me to win or lose. And even though I miss my dad and I wanted him to be around, obviously, there wasn't the pressure to follow that sports thing. And although I did really well in sports, and I was an all-state catcher, and I couldn't have gone on to play collegiately. I wasn't strong enough. I was never big enough. But I did well for my small school that I was playing in and all that kind of stuff. Football, I was just such a tragic mess. I was a good leader. I was a very good leader, and I always have been. And I think that's what the coaches were. It was just really interesting. My every senior year, the paper in Bloomington would do an article about each senior, and my article was more about singing and dancing and playing piano than it was about playing football. And then one of my coaches was quoted saying, and I can't get away from this quote for as long as I live, so I think I'll tell you, They said, Mitch is a jack of all trades, but a master of none. And I mean that as a compliment. And he was saying this, but no, everybody just laughed because it was like, Mitch is not. He is not here on earth to be an athlete. And that's just the truth of the matter. And my two younger brothers grew up to be amazing collegiate athletes and doctors. Oh, wow. And I dropped out of college first weekend, and you know, I'm still very active, but you know, it wasn't a big thing for me. In high school, I really got into show choir, very deep into it, and very deep into theater and writing and writing music. And that's where it started. I was a TA my junior and senior year for my show choir teacher, and she just let me do whatever I wanted. And so if the auditorium was empty, I would go into the auditorium and play piano. And then as I got into making movies with my buddy David had this acoustic guitar, and he knew 3 chords on it. And he was playing it, and I asked him to show me those chords, and that was G, C, and D. And he hooked me up with it, and 2 weeks later, I bought a $200 guitar. And during those TA times, I would practice guitar and write songs on the piano. And that's how
you had a piano in your house. You mentioned.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did.
Did you ever take any lessons? Were you properly trained? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I did. I took lessons in junior high, although it was a thing where like I didn't really like them very much. There were some songs that I liked playing. I didn't really enjoy the lessons very much. I didn't like practicing what I was supposed to know, so I would like hold my brothers down, and I would be like, "You better tell Mom that I practiced, or I'm going to beat the shit out of you." And they'd be like, "Okay." And so Mom would be like, "Mitch, did you practice?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I practiced, didn't I, Matt?" And he'd be like, "Oh yeah, Mitch practiced." I'd be like, "See, Mom, I practiced." And so
the art of extortion.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, but it was the thing. There's like, it was one of those things my mom didn't want me to quit what I had already started. And I had started taking piano lessons. So for the season, I would stay with piano until the season was over. Mm-hmm. So finally, I just got too busy. I got too busy to do it. But then, really when I started writing, I was actually like transposing movie scores. I'm a huge movie buff, and I write. I have aspirations to be a film writer, and so I write in my spare time, and I love movies. Movies and music are the things that make me the happiest on earth. Put me in a movie theater or put headphones on my head and have me dive into records, and I'm just the happiest camper of all time. And so, and I get enthralled by the movie scores. Danny Elfman, James Horner, all these beautiful movie scores, and I would transpose them on a grand piano in the auditorium. And in that, I would find these chord structures that went together, and then I would sing over them. And that's how I started writing songs. And it was my high school show choir teacher, who I'm still in touch with now and give a lot of credit she just really nurtured me. She really nurtured me as a young artist and as a young songwriter. She heard me playing one of the songs that I had written, and so she had me play it as a part of like the summer concert or whatever. That was the first time I ever played on stage in front of people one of my own original songs. And
cool.
After high school, I joined a performance group called the Young Americans, and which was like an extension of show choir, but more like Broadway. There was like big sets, and I took I was taking dance lessons and dance training, and I was training in ballet and tap and hip hop and all that kind of stuff, as well as musical classes. So I would take guitar and I took piano and all that kind of stuff. And then that's how I met Dean and Phil. Dean was in my class in the Young Americans, and Phil came the summer afterwards. And I met Phil when I was 19, the summer when I was 19, he was 18, and we just kind of fell in love with each other. And I was like really blown away by, whenever you meet Phil Valensky, I think you'll know what I'm talking about, but he has this like infectious charisma and there's only one word to really describe him, and it's truly magical. He has this way with people and this aura that is just so incredibly powerful. And whenever he's his best self, you just want to be next to him. You just want to be near him. You want to be around him, because where he is the magic happens. And when he was 18, 19, whenever we started to get together and play songs, the magic just followed us around everywhere. It was just unbelievable. So
wow.
The first summer that we got together and we started playing, we would go down to Venice Beach or Huntington Beach or something like that. And just the dumbest kids in the world, I swear. I'm so thankful I'm alive. I'm so thankful that I didn't die or get arrested or get shot or something. Because it was just a thing. It was like someone would pull up and be like, hey, you guys look kind of cool. You want to jump in this car? I'd be like, oh, yeah, sure. You know, you'd be walking around and be like, hey, you guys look kind of cool. You want to take these? I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. You pop in your mouth. What were they? Oh, I don't know. You feel it in like 25 minutes. Okay, sounds good. I mean, it was just like that. It was like off, like whatever.
That's a good way to die.
Yeah, but it always ended up good. Or he'd be like, hey, man, you want to try mushrooms? I'd be like, yeah, let's do some mushrooms. We'd be like, okay. So then we would both take an eighth and go down to Venice Beach or something like that. Well, like you forget that when you take an eighth of mushrooms, you're going to forget about the reality that you really live in, and you're in a public place. You're in a public spot with people.
Wait a minute.
You.
I've seen you.
Yeah.
Dude, you've got trees growing out of your ass.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and it was just like we were so lucky to have people like little angels like that would pop up everywhere and take care of us everywhere that we went.
Wow.
So we would go down to the beach, and we would what we would do, we would play songs. We knew like 4 songs. So we'd play them over and over again. We'd play the 4 songs over and over and over again in one place. And we would get enough money so that we could both get a burger and fries at the Kind Burger. It's called TK Burger down in Huntington Beach. So we would go down to the TK Burger and we get burger and fries. Then we go to another spot and we get just enough money to get Mountain Dew in a glass bottle. So we'd get like $4 and be like, okay, now it's time to go get Mountain Dew in a glass bottle. So we go get Mountain Dew in a glass bottle. And then somebody would pass through usually once a day and give us, they're like, oh man, you guys got something going on, man. I really believe in you guys. I'm going to do some karma for myself. Here's $20. I'd be like, oh shit. Now
it's party.
Now we get to find the first person with dreadlocks and ask them where we can find some weed. So we would go, okay, all right, now I got $20. We're gonna go get a grain of weed.
Food. Weed.
No, not food. We already had burgers. Yeah, we got.
Oh yeah, I forgot you were eating a gourmet meal with the Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
They're doing it in the right order too.
Yeah, exactly. So then we'd be all stoned or something like that, and we'd play a little bit more and get just enough to grab a bus ticket home. So then we grab a bus ticket home and go home. And we would do this in our spare time when we wouldn't have rehearsals, when we'd have time off. We'd be like, hey, you want to go down to Huntington? We'd just jump on the bus, go down there, go down to Venice or whatever it was. And it was always an adventure. It was always magical. It was never like, oh, this is boring. This is not working. This is not. It was always like, and we always had it in the back of our minds that we were going to be the biggest band or the biggest act of all time. And I'd never been in a band before. Philip had been in bands junior high and high school, and his thing, he would tell me, he said, I never want to be in a band again. It's heartbreaking. It's horrible. It's horrible to be in a band. I never want to be in a band. And it's because it was just going to be you and me. We're just going to be a duo. And at the time, like, he was this magical magistry of person. He would make things happen all the time. And so everything he said, I would believe. I to my own faults, I still do to this day. He'll say, he'd be like, we're gonna be a duo. I'd be like, okay, we're never gonna be in a band. And then eventually he's like, this music's too good. We need a band. I'd be like, okay, well, let's get a band. And
and that's funny because usually one of my questions is like, when did you start playing with other people and things like that? You immediately mentioned Phil, and it's like, so Phil being in Wayland now was actually the first guy that you ever really played with. Music, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I played with, I like jam with some guys in high school, GC and D. We never wrote any songs together, and like, I don't really count that. I feel like every budding musician is gonna dick around with some people as they do their thing, But yeah, Phil was the first person that I ever really played with and really wrote songs with and really So basically, what really attracted him, and I guess, I had written this one song. It was called Song in G. And I only know 3 chords, and so I wrote a dozen songs with the same fucking chords, and this one song was actually kind of good. And it's called Song in G, and I still play it to this day. It's actually a really cool song, and I can't stand to sleep without you. I can't stand to live without you. And if I had to wait without you, I'd be okay. But so anyway, we play. We go to these parties and we'd play as a duo, and people would be like, "Oh, play a song." So we'd play like "Hard to Handle" and "Hard Day's Night" and all these cool little rock and roll songs and stuff like that. Going to California or whatever we were working on at that time. And then everybody would like, play a song in G, play a song in G. And, so
we're famous.
Yeah. Oh, dude, we just thought we were the shit. We just thought we had it all figured out. So basically we wrote this group of songs and all the while that we're doing this, Dean was living with us. He was our roommate. And Dean was living with us, and he was acting. He was doing the acting thing and working. And at the time, Phil and I were just kind of being supported. We were doing side jobs when we can get them, and just basically being supported by our girlfriends. I'll just be really bluntly honest with you. I mean, we thought it was so important to play music and do this thing that we just could not get day jobs. So for years we did not have any jobs, and we basically just begged and borrowed and stole when we could. So we ended up building this little band around us, this little combo of people, and we got a couple guys from Michigan that came out and joined us, and very quickly they realized it wasn't for them. And the bass player was like, "I want to go home." We were like, "Okay, that's totally fine." The drummer was like, "I do want to get home, but I'll stay here to train a bass player." Well, Dean, and this is kind of interesting, but in high school, he did competitive ragtime guitar playing. Competitive ragtime. I'm not even kidding. You can't make this shit up.
I've heard 2 new things today I never knew existed before.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, hey, what are we doing Friday? Let's go down. I heard there's a competitive ragtime guitar contest going on.
Yeah. I mean, how do you judge that? We're like, "Oh, you messed that up. That was way too much heart to put in that thing." I'm sorry. There's way too much feeling. I've got to cut you down a couple points. I'm not really sure how it worked out, but anyway, we knew he knew how to play the guitar. So Phil, who is the master of persuasion, he sat him down and said, "Listen, I know that you're getting ready to start this play here in Los Angeles, but I think that you should quit the play and quit your job and break up with your girlfriend and be in the band. We just acquired this. We had just acquired this like quote management, and this quote management had X amount of dollars to put into our project. So we were setting free. They're going to take care of our rent. They're going to buy us clothes. They're going to buy us food. Yeah, a lot. I said, you can quit your job, all this stuff. So like, we thought we had made it. We thought we had just effing made it. It was it. You know what I mean? So Dean ended up quitting his job, all that jazz, and playing. And he would stay at home for 12 hours a day. We would go out and do other things, and he would sit at home and practice the bass. Even to the point where we started to play our first shows. We were playing our first shows at the Whiskey A Go-Go and the Viper Room and all that shit downtown Los Angeles. And he would be in the middle of a song, and the bass would drop out, and you look over and he'd be shaking his hand out because he wouldn't be conditioned to play that many songs in a row without rest. So that was kind of the beginning stages of it, and I'll finish that chapter up just by saying we started working with this guy named Andy Johns, who did
never heard of him.
No.
You never heard of Andy Johns?
Never heard of him. No.
You've heard of him, haven't you?
Hell yeah, we've heard of him.
Okay, yeah. So we started working with Andy. His brother Glenn, who was a little bit more successful than Andy. Andy had bless his heart, he had a severe alcohol problem, very, very bad. Alcohol and cocaine was his drugs of choice, and he engineered Exile on Main Street and was very good friends with Keith, and so he had these amazing stories, and he was a giant Englishman. And basically we did a record with him because our management was paying him. And we would work with Andy until he couldn't work anymore every day. So he had a case of beer and a bottle of Jack, and that's what would happen. And then you'd keep working during the day until Andy was done. And what I mean is like ready, like he couldn't work anymore. He was so drunk, and it was time to eat and drink more. And that's how our days went with him. And then finally, when we finished this record, he had us over to his house, and he got pretty lit up. And he sat Phil and I down, and he said, I want to talk to you, boys. I want to talk to you. You're like my sons. You're like my sons. I'll have to be honest with you because I love you. You have to stop playing music. You have to stop doing this. And he looked at Phil and he said, "You're no Jimmy Page." And he looked at me and he said, "You're no Robert Plant." And he basically told us to give it up. He basically told us to give it up. And,
there you go.
So I'll just say that kind of that is the beginning stages of where I started in music, and I'm guessing that's probably over the course of about, from 12 until I was 25. So, but and I'm sorry, that was one question, but
no, that was perfect.
Okay, good.
I gotta talk to you. You're like nice. Family to me. You're like family.
You're like family. Get out of this.
I hate my family.
I mean,
you're not Robert Plant. You're not Jimmy Page. Just
bless
stop.
His heart. And he didn't. And his brother wouldn't speak to him anymore because he was a severe alcoholic, and it was really bad. And he would blast Glenn John's records, and he'd be like, "This is my brother. This is my brother." and wow. you'd listen to the Eagles at a blistering level, decibel level, and you're just like, oh man. So anyway, that's kind of how we started out as a band, and as songwriters, that's where we started.
That's one hell of a story.
It is.
I mean, we have.
Cool.
We have the whole busking thing, a lot of people don't get a chance to do that, and I think it's really cool that people take the chance and the opportunity when they have it to go out and do something like that. So that's cool, and then
in 5 years, Jeff, we have not had a story like this.
No, we have not.
No, this is cool, man. I mean, this is one
just
hell
so
of a story.
That's consolidated. That was consolidated.
I'm sure there's a pretty good novel in there from what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Amsterdam's Reader's Digest version.
I won't go deep into it, but past that point, we all had to get day jobs. So we left this management. We all had to get day jobs. So we were telemarketers in the morning, and we would telemarket on Sunset Boulevard from 5 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. We had to have something that all of us could do in the morning so we could rehearse in the afternoon and play at night. So we had a rehearsal studio down in downtown Rehearsal, and we would go and so we'd wake up, we'd have a show, and we'd get to bed at 2. We'd wake up at 5, go down to the Sunset Strip at 6. Everybody would pile into the band van. We'd go down to the Sunset Strip again and get into our little office building, our little cubicles, and we would telemarket until 1 o'clock. And then after 1, we'd go home, grab lunch. By 3, we'd be rehearsing, and we'd rehearse until 5 or 6. We'd take a break, and then when we would usually have a show sometime that night, and so then we'd go out and do that. And that was we did that for years. And the stories and the telemarketing business that I have, we can make a movie just about that. We can make a movie just about that with literally you'd get these my boss in the rooms would be like, okay, next person who gets a lead, $5 bonus. Well, you'd have these literal crackheads. They were literally crackheads, and they would be dialing their asses off to get this $5. So they would get the next lead, grab the $5, take a smoke break, go score, smoke some crack, and come back. And that was our reality.
That's called production.
Our reality. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And a lot of these rooms got shut down. They would get shut down. You'd have to find another room. The FBI would come in and shut you down. And they'd be like, "Oh crap, we got to find another room." So then you'd get on the phone and call some other people, like, "Who have you worked for?" "Oh, I worked for Jimmy and Tricia over the last couple of years." Yeah, come on in. You guys can start dialing. "How many are there of you?" "Oh, there's 5 of us." "Okay, come on in. I got seats for all you guys." So then we'd just go to another room.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
is
incredible experiences. Incredible experiences.
Yeah.
I love it.
I want to write. I do want to write a book, but I don't know where the fuck to start. And I'm like, what time period am I covering? How many books are we writing? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I've been really blessed. All of us have been really blessed to have these incredible experiences and to have these truly whimsical and magical times together. And they're just getting started. There's so much time in between, like where I ended that story and now. So we're here. We're here and now. And this spark has realigned with ourselves. And the truth of the matter is that we are gearing up and grooming ourselves to be one of the biggest acts on the planet. And it's obviously really exciting. And there's a lot of work ahead of us for us. But that's the excitement that's in the camp right now. That's what we are seeing. That's the trajectory of where we're going, which is just amazing.
And how long has Wayland been together?
Wayland has been Wayland since 2010, on the road straight since 2012, and you
got signed to Kiefer Sutherland's label?
Yes. Yep. Right around 2009, 2010, we started working with a guy named Jude Cole, who started Ironworks with Kiefer. He was really good friends with Kiefer Sutherland. And we were writing songs with a guy named Mike Gurley. We did our first record with him and Florian Amon. And then we got hooked up with Jude, and we were going into this, we were kind of making things a little bit harder, and we wanted things to appeal to radio at the time, which was like Shinedown. That was, Second Chance was really big on the radio at the time. So we came out with that Welcome to My Head record, and that was done in LA at Jude Cole's studio. Jude Cole had some hits in the 90s. One of his biggest one was Start the Car, and then he produced and managed a band called Lifehouse.
Oh yeah.
And he's one of the most talented and intimidating musicians I've ever played in the studio with or recorded with ever in my life. So he's literally one of the most talented individuals ever. So, and he also produced the last Kiefer record, which just came out. Kiefer's on the road. He's on the road with like all my friends, or a lot of our friends. And Kiefer has remained to be a good friend. We're not with the Ironworks anymore, not because of anything bad. It was basically Jude just got tired of dealing with us. Basically, he didn't want to have the responsibility of breaking a band.
Okay.
Not that he didn't think he could do it. He'd just been through the ringer. He had 30 years plus in his personal career, 20 years plus with the Lifehouse career, and he just was not in. His heart wasn't in it. So, we moved on. He passed us on to a guy named Jesse James Dupree, who worked out of Atlanta, and he's and he's the guy that fronts the band Jackal.
Hell yeah,
Mr. Chainsaw.
And basically,
and he's got a bar.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he does. Yeah. And Jude wanted us to be hooked up with like a really grassroots kind of dude, and so Jesse had a lot to offer in that arena. He had a lot to offer.
That is cool.
Us, and that's how we got hooked up with Jesse, and that's how we got hooked up with Mighty Loud.
Is he as crazy as we think he is?
10 times the amount of crazy. One time,
did you ever see that reality show, Jeff?
There's this, and I don't know if you can find this video. I wish that I had the link. I would show you. Okay. I do have a picture of this moment. But it was one of the first shows I ever saw of Jackal, and I was really intimidated when I first started working with Jesse. Philip has always been the point person for Wayland, and so I never dealt with him directly except for in person, and he wouldn't really say much to me or every once in a while he'd walk by me and he'd go, "Fuck you, Mitch," and just walk away, and I'd be like, "Oh." oh shit, man, like, but he just liked to mess with me. That was his only thing. He just liked to mess with me. And at the time I was very soft spoken and kind of intimidated by a lot of different things for whatever reason. And but I loved the Jackal show. I had seen like 3 of them and I just could not believe it. So I was in Battle Creek, Michigan, at a place called Planet Rock at the time, and we had got done with our set, so I was side stage for the Jackal show, and they're 3/4 of the way through their set, and the band is vamping, and Jesse comes over to my side and he says, "There's no, fuck you, Mitch. There's some ladies that have just came in, so I'm gonna have to watch my language." So he says as usual, and I'm laughing, I'm laughing and whatever, and he said, "How about them boys in Wayland?" And everyone yelled, and it was a sold out show there, and everyone's screaming and whatever. And he said, "How about we bring that lead singer up here, and he can touch my balls." And everyone goes nuts. And so I'm very confused at this point. And he said, "Come on up here. So I come up there. I want you to come over here. I want you to come over here and touch my balls." I said, "I'm not." I'm like waving my hands. I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. Okay. I'm like, "Get the fuck off my stage!" And he kicks me. And I get down off the stage, and I'm just confused. I'm like, was I supposed to touch his balls? What am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really
you don't know.
I just met this guy. Like, he is off the walls. Like, I've never experienced anything like this dude in my life. You know what I mean? So I've heard. So he's walking around, and he comes back and he goes, "I'm gonna give you one more chance to be sweet. I want you to come up here and touch my balls."
Mighty nice mouth you got.
And so I didn't know what to do. Now I'm back up on stage. The adrenaline is very high. And I do not know what he wants me to do, and I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I ran at him and I put a heel palm as hard as I fucking could into his genitals. And there was this huge tornado of hair and hands, and we have this little scuffle on stage. And in the end, he did this little butt scoop back to the back line and ended up landing in the amps. And I said, "Fuck this." I'd already gotten hit in the face. I was like, "Fuck this, I'm out of here." So I jumped the stage, and I'm super confused. I'm very confused, and bless his heart, he came and found me right after the show. His outro music is still playing, and he runs out and finds me. He goes, "What in the fuck were you doing?" I said, "Dude, I didn't know what you wanted me to do." He goes, "Girls love that gay shit. What the fuck was your problem?" I don't know why he chose this. I don't know what his whole thing was to this day. We never talked about it again. I was just going to say, I don't think I'd still be sure what his I'm not really sure. Supposed to be. I'm not really sure. And he's like, "Jesus, are you just not secure in your sexuality? What is your problem?"
Jesse Dupree, the master of timing.
I didn't know, man. I didn't know. He's like, "Oh, well, are you okay? Did I hit you too hard?" I was like, "No, I'm fine." He's like, "Jesus Christ, don't ever hit me in the balls again." I'm like, "That's your package, Jesse. What do you want, man?" So I mean, that was like one of my very first experiences with Jesse. And through the years that I've worked with him, he is the craziest dude that I've ever met. And he will follow through with anything that he says he's going to do that is wild and crazy, regardless of how it might hurt him in some sort of way. I've watched him limp off stage. He's a crazy MF, but he's just been an incredible guidance. And he, though he's not a part of our management anymore, he remains in our council. And he's how we got hooked up with Nigel. We were touring with the Nigel Dupree band for a while. And Nigel, that kind of imploded, and Nigel started to go to work with Kiefer. And Nigel is the best guitar tech I've ever had. He came out as a guitar tech first with Wayland. Then he got offered the job with Kiefer. And then we offered him a job as an auxiliary player before Tyler left the band. And Kiefer offered him a massive amount of money to stay. And
nice when you can do that.
Yeah, and Nigel said no. Nigel said no.
Oh, wow.
And he came to be our auxiliary guy. And a couple months later, 2 years ago in January, Tyler called and said that he didn't want to do it anymore and he didn't want to tour anymore. We'd been on the road for 5 years straight. He was just done with it. But he did say that he would stay on if we needed a drummer for a little bit. And we called Nigel to ask him what he'd do. He said, I can do it. And we said, you play drums? He's like, oh yeah, man, I can do it. And they said, well, we don't have any time to rehearse. He's like, okay, it's okay. And we were doing an opening gig, so we wouldn't have a sound check. So the first time that we played together was a 45-minute set with no rehearsal.
Wow.
And we got done halfway through the set and we were like, this is it. This is the lineup. This is something really magical. So
that's cool. Now we can't go too much longer, but I do have one or two more. One basic question for you, and then another.
I'm so sorry. I was so
no. It's okay. It's okay.
That is one of the craziest stories ever.
Absolutely. But you've kind of alluded to it, and I think I've seen where you seem to eat very healthy and work out. Have you always done that, or did like the touring lifestyle force that or encourage that?
That's a really great question. Basically with me, it was kind of like shit or get off the pot. It was like either be one of the best lead singers on the planet or just stop. And there was a lot of things that was in my way. You get out here and you can get lost. You can get lost within yourself. Instead of finding yourself, you get lost. And you get lost because there's alcohol available to you every day. There's every drug that you can possibly think of to get mixed up in. And I'm not saying I got deeply mixed up into it, but I will admit that there were times that I was using things as a crutch or as a mask or as a something that I could retreat inside instead of looking at the reality of things. And it dulled me, and it dulled my senses, and it dulled where I wanted to go to the point where like I didn't even know where we were going as a band. And it's not like a big deep thing. It's not like, oh, Mitch is in this deep dark hole. I've been in deep dark holes before, but that wasn't really what it was about. It was about either shit or get off the pot. Like, you have the potential of being this great lead singer, and here you're being just mediocre. Instead of taking care of yourself, you're not, and then you're not being your best self on stage. And so that focus just changed for me. Like, it changed for me probably a year and some change ago, and then it really, really kicked in this January to where I just got, I would say serious, but I wouldn't say serious is the word because I'm so damn happy. And it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. And I still have cocktails every once in a while, and I still, whenever it's appropriate, take a hit of a joint or smoke a bowl with a friend or something like that. But it's definitely not a daily thing or a weekly thing or anything like that. And some people are able to make it work. I'm just one of those people that it's not emotionally and physically. I just don't work well with it. But that being said, I had to find out what did work well for me. And moving every day and meditating every day and eating really well to support what I want to do, which first and foremost includes me being a great lead singer on stage. That's what works really well for me. And that's when I find that I'm on the path to my highest self. And so that's where I feel the best. That's where I kind of feel. That's where I feel at home in my vortex is when I'm treating myself really well. And that's where I get buzzed. That's where I get my third eye buzzes and my heart chakra buzzes, and like my chakras are aligned and I feel good about that. Not saying that any other lifestyle is not right. It's just what I was doing wasn't working.
Right. It wasn't working for you. So you put yourself in the best position for you. And that's, I mean, it doesn't get any better,
No. And it frees me up. Now I can wake up at 6 or 7 and start my work and go work out and do interviews or do whatever. And I can have this huge long day of things. And then I get done at 1 or 2 in the morning. I can take a breath, go to sleep, get 6 to 8 hours, and I'm fine. And that's really important. And that's really important as I find my way through life. Like, recovery is important, and my fucking peace of mind is worth more to me than anything on the planet, because without it, I've got nothing, and I've got nothing to move forward with. And
True.
this band is the most important thing on the planet to me, and to be the best that I can be. When I am the best, I'm one of the best lead singers on the planet. I'm one of the best singers in this world, and that's when I'm at my best. And so male singers, I can't compete with Whitney Houston or Lady Gaga. I'll just say Lady Gaga. I'll throw that out there because she's just unbelievably incredible. So
you don't have to compete with Houston anymore.
No, I don't. But you're always going to say, well, there always was.
There's a benchmark. Yeah, for sure. I usually ask guitar players about their gear and if they have, a favorite guitar or something. Hey, favorite microphone? Yeah.
I sing out of a Sennheiser. I think it's an 803, I believe, wireless mic.
Okay.
And it's amazing. We use all Sennheiser mics, and they're my favorite.
Cool.
My favorite guitar. Yeah, they're really great. My favorite guitar is a faded yellow Fender Telecaster. And
nice.
it's my workhorse. I play through Marshall cabinet, Marshall head, and yeah.
What JCM 2000, 900, 800?
It's an 800.
800. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, there's the old staple.
That's right.
Yeah, but I gotta admit that Phil has taught me just about everything that I know about guitar playing and gear, to the point where, like, I'll be like, hey, Phil, can you help me dial in my tone today?
Well,
Dr. Phil, come here.
You want to know something interesting? You take a guy like Steve Vai. Now, Steve Vai, everybody goes, oh, my God, this guy knows everything. He's Steve Vai, right? Well, when David Lee Roth had Billy Sheehan and Steve together, Steve would go to Billy, hey, Billy, my thing isn't working over here. Can you fix that? And Billy'd be like, yeah, and he'd fix it. And then Billy'd go, what is that mode that we're playing in? And Steve would, so, it's a give and take. You got to have that.
Yeah, it really is, man. And that's what, the balance has always been there with Phil and I. And when the band is at its best, it's because Phil and I are at our best. And there's a really beautiful yin and yang that has always existed between the two of us. So.
Well, I like your stuff, man. I've listened to a lot of it, seen your videos. You got a lot of hot chicks in your videos. That's always a plus.
Thank you. Hot chicks will always be a part of it. And I hope that anybody listening will just start to follow, because the journey that is about to happen to this band is something out of fairy tales. And to be a part of it is a dream come true. It really is.
Well, cool. Well, Mitch, thanks for taking the time. Best of luck with the band. I hope it rockets to number 1.
And the novel.
And
thank you.
And the novel, or 2.
There's a lot to tell.
Yeah. So, safe travels and much continued success to you and your band mates.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate the help.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Have a great rest of the day and stay healthy. Enjoy life.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
And there you have the story.
Holy hell.
I don't think we got a tenth of the story.
That is the craziest story yet.
Great storyteller.
Oh, my God. I didn't know where he was going at first, and I thought, this could crash. And it was just like, then I was like, okay, so what happened next?
Right.
In this
new chapter,
absolutely insane lifestyle you had growing up.
That's pretty cool, man.
It sounds like they just literally by the seat of their pants went to L.A. and they were just there.
Well, you know what I mean? We haven't heard that before. Not that we haven't heard that before.
Yeah, but there was guys that that woodshed for 10,000 hours, then got on a bus, then went out to L.A.
Yeah,
this sounded like we're just going to go there.
And this story with the age of the band and everything seems a little more recent than most. Like, those are the kind of stories you go, oh, that used to happen.
No,
kind of thing. This is much more recent than the that used to happen, doesn't happen anymore stories. Apparently, it's happening to them. And
wow.
I hope his attitude is able to take it to the stars, man.
Yeah, I like them. I think I like the band. Everything I've seen and heard, I'm like, this is good stuff, man. It's not, You know, it's kind of refreshing because it's still kind of old school rock and roll, but it's got that, you know, it's got this new kind of Southern rock vibe to it, which is kind of one of those things that, you know, it's kind of like went away almost, you know. Mm-hmm. And there's bands out there, Blackberry Smoke and you know, they've done something with and the Texas Hippie Coalition, but that's a little bit of a different ride. But you know, it's all still good. And hey,
yeah,
that was the craziest story about Jesse.
It was. Well, you know, he mentioned oh my God, and I've heard a couple of stories too.
Oh my Lord,
but he mentioned yin and yang. So we got the yin, and at some point in the not too distant future, we're going to bring them the yang.
And
we're going to bring the other half of that duo to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we'll leave you here for now.
That's right. So until next time, my friend.
When it will be next time.
I'm Mick Marcelino.
That's right. And I'm just Jeff Bober.
And we're always saying,
onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @AmpsandAxes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage, ampsandaxescast.com. Thanks for listening.